Now, the Israeli army says there's been another cross-border attack from Lebanon. One of its tanks was hit this time. It's the second attack involving an anti-tank missile on Tuesday. Israel says it responded by shelling border areas. Towns along Israel's northern border with Lebanon have been evacuated after repeated exchanges of fire. Well, Ali Hashem is in Blida in southern Lebanon, joins us from there right now. So, Ali, first of all, are these cross-border exchanges intensifying?
Well, Sami, we can say that things are going towards a phase 2 of escalation. The beginning of escalation was with one attack every day. Now we're witnessing 3, 4, 5 attacks. Some of them are in retaliation, but it's more of a tit for tat, but it's intensive. And we are here in Blida, just behind me. If our colleague Ra'id can show us, this is one of the Israeli posts, Yiftah, and it was hit by a Hezbollah anti-tank today. One tank was hit there. There's another post in Metullah also that was hit, and the third post also and it's a military post also in Ramim. So there are 3 attacks today from the Lebanese borders. But in retaliation, the Israelis hit several areas in Lebanon, including this town, Blida. And we're going to show you a bit of one of the hits. This car, this house. So we can see direct hits to civilians' homes. And we've been told that there was also an Israeli attack on the Maroun al-Ras park. Now, there are casualties. We don't have a clear number, but we knew that the casualties were taken to the city of Bint Jbeil for treatment, and maybe there are also deaths. During the day, earlier today, the Israelis announced that 4 fighters from Lebanon tried to infiltrate from the area of Al-Mashab, and that they were killed by a drone attack. Now the Lebanese Red Cross is recovering the bodies, and probably these are Palestinian fighters who are trying to cross. So the situation in Lebanon, yes, is getting more and more tense. And if we just put a timeline and a graph, we'll see how the number of attacks is increasing, the intensification of the attacks from both sides, whether it's from the Israelis, who, for example, yesterday, they shelled the whole borderline with phosphorus bombing, while also launching some illumination flares along the border. So the situation is getting a bit out of control. And if we take this into consideration with how things are escalating in Gaza, they're all linked, and this is an organic link between the 2 fronts. Now, as we said before, Lebanon is still an operation area. It's operation zone. This is not a war zone. But many people, I mean, on the border line between Israel and Lebanon, this is a 120 kilometers border line with tens or even hundreds of villages from the west on the Mediterranean to the east on the border with Syria. Many of the people here are concerned that this could slide into the bigger conflict, and Lebanon could be part of this war. I mean, and then it's going to be a kind of a semi-regional war. And we've been hearing also warnings, whether the one yesterday we heard from the Iranian foreign minister, who just came to Lebanon, went to Qatar also, and yesterday gave an interview and said that this axis, the axis of resistance as it's called, that's led by Iran, might go towards a kind of an attack, a preemptive attack, and that they would have to fight in this war rather than waiting to fight in their cities later. So there is a rhetoric also here that's intensifying. Now, whether this rhetoric is related to kind of raising the stakes to make Israel think twice before launching its ground offensive. Now, this is one of the issues that many are kind of observing and analyzing, whether it's a real threat or it's just part of a rhetoric. This is the big question.
Ali, I'm glad you mentioned the statements by Iranian officials talking about the possibility of what they called preemptive strikes by the resistance. Are we hearing from leaders of Hezbollah? Are we hearing from allies of Iran elsewhere in Syria, in Iraq? What do they understand their role might be in that kind of scenario?
Well, Sami, if we have to take into consideration the allies of Iran in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, in Lebanon, then we're talking about several thousands of kilometers that the Israelis will have to fight on, because then we'll see missiles being launched from Iraq, from Syria, from Lebanon, and that means a very big war. And that's why I said this is going to be a semi-regional war. Now, we heard from the Iraqis; they've been issuing statements. Also, we saw here in Lebanon one of the Iraqi militias commanders, Abu Ala al-Wala'i. We saw him on the border. I mean, I don't know if this is related or not, but this is part of the picture, the bigger picture that is accumulating day after day. Now, the Iranians are trying to set a clear scene, whereas this is going to be the options. And then the whole international community will have to weigh the options, either to go towards a regional war or to put a kind of limits for the Israeli ground offensive in Gaza, because the Iranians or their own allies aren't going to tolerate the idea of seeing Gaza falling completely and Hamas annihilating, because that would mean, according to the Iranian foreign minister, and even today the Iranian supreme leader, that would mean fighting the next battle in Beirut and maybe later on in Tehran.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Ali Hashem.